Okay. If y'all ready, I'll go ahead and get started. We'll be aware of your time. I know you guys have a long Friday, so. Short day. This is a short day for you.
Only 4 hours.
Only 4 hours, right? In the same classroom the whole time?
Yeah.
Nobody changes chairs or anything? Okay, I'd have to move over there. That makes other people mad when you say that. Okay. So, I'm going to go over real quickly, or not real quickly, about an hour, about resumes and cover letters to help y'all get prepared for graduation, right? Coming up pretty soon, hopefully. Okay. So my name is Weese. I'm the Director of Career Development. I run the entire Career Center, but I work mainly with juniors and seniors, helping them get prepared for graduation. Our office also surveys all graduates. So close to graduation, you'll get a survey from me asking where you're going after graduation, if you know already. And then we try and tracking information, and I can share some of that with y'all. Some of what we found out from your class last year, how they're doing right now, and they're all doing well, by the way. But and we also do workshops, job fairs, job listings on our Coastal Career Link, which I'll show you, and other things. So, and go through these slides and talk about this, and if anybody has any questions, just shout them out and we'll go through it. How many of y'all already started working on your resume? Some of you? Good. Good. Okay. Has anybody had their resume reviewed by us yet? No? Okay. All right, so we do encourage you to do that. Your professor's probably encouraging you to do that as well. Is it a requirement? Okay. So, you know, you can always submit your resume, what you have, to an employer without us looking at it, but we do encourage you to have us review it and proofread it, because once it's out there, it's out there. And if it's got a mistake in it, you know, it's like a bad selfie. Once it's out there, you know, it's out there. You can't bring it back in, right? That's what we're going to talk about. So, first thing I want to talk about here is you need to know what your employers want and what they want to see on your resume. And so, these are some of the skills that employers are looking for, and we update this from year to year. We have a survey that goes out from my office at every other college in the country, sends out a survey to their employers asking them, what is it you actually want? And so this is the results of the survey from last year. What they're looking for, obviously technology, which a lot of y'all have some pretty specific and very good technology skills, I'm assuming, right? A lot of equipment you guys have been exposed to, programs, health information systems program, as well as actual equipment in the various offices that you're working with. That's great. And you make sure your employers know about it by putting it on your resume. Be able to show initiative. This can be shown in a lot of ways. So is everybody in here in the CGANs? Yes. Yes? We have a president in here? Good. Vice president? Good. What else do you have? Treasurer? Good. Okay, good. So that shows initiative by being in one of the leadership positions. And then is anybody in any other club on campus? Biology club? Things like that? Okay. So being in clubs, organizations, or volunteering out in the community, that all shows initiative. Employers are looking for that, so you want to show that on your resume. Analytical skills, which I think every nursing student is going to get quite a bit of this, but you need to be able to show it on your resume. And I emailed this PowerPoint to everybody, or a similar, more or less the same PowerPoint this morning to everybody. So you should have gotten it in your student email this morning. So if you didn't get it, just email me later. I'll make sure you get a copy. Teamwork, very, very important in your field, right? I mean, there's not very many places where you're going to be a one-person office. You know, there's not just one nurse in a hospital, there's not just one doctor in a hospital. There's going to be multiple of you, and you're going to be working in a team. So it's very important. Employers look for this a lot, because it's just, no matter where you go, no matter what job you're doing, really, you got to be able to work in a team. How many of y'all have done group projects in classes? How many of y'all like doing group projects in classes? Just the person never does anything. So you never do anything, right? You're the one that sits back and lets everybody else do the work. Nobody really likes doing them, but why do we make y'all do them? Because this is what employers are looking for. You know, this starts back in middle school with the projects, in high school, because these teachers know, and these schools know, and the college here obviously knows this, is that you're going to be working in a team structure. So we do make y'all do a lot of team projects, group projects, which nobody likes doing, but it does build those skills to be able to work with somebody who's not doing their part, and being able to work with them and get them to do their stuff. Work ethic. How many of y'all worked while you're in college? Good. I know they don't really like y'all working in your senior year, right? I discourage it. Anybody working now? Good. Okay. Hats off to you to be able to do this program and work. That's good, and it shows a strong work ethic to be able to take classes full-time, be a full-time student, graduating on time, and being able to manage the workload as well. And verbal communication skills, and actually this has been updated, verbal and written communication skills. So that's why you write a lot of papers, do a lot of projects, and give a lot of presentations in front of groups. How many of y'all enjoy getting up and speaking in front of groups? Some of y'all do, yeah? And how many of y'all hate it? Yeah, most of it. And I hated it. I used to hate it too, but the type of work I've done over the years, has kind of put me up here a lot, and I don't really mind it. But again, being able to get in front of people and speak eloquently and clearly and concisely without being too nervous and stuff, those are important skills. The verbal and written skills, being able to write good reports, well-written, legible, spelling is correct, things like that, very important. Okay, so when you're getting ready to look for a job, obviously the first thing you're going to be doing is looking for some job announcements. Job announcement usually has a job description on it, obviously. Duties and responsibilities, job requirements, and minimum qualifications. And they usually have preferred qualifications. So when you're looking at a job, you want to look at the job duties and responsibilities, make sure it's what you're looking for. If it's not the area of the hospital you want, then look for another one. And then you got to require some minimum qualifications. These are things that you're going to have to apply for the job. If you don't have them, you probably shouldn't apply because they're just going to look at it and usually the HR manager or the computer that's reading this resume or this application is looking and checking off the things that you have and don't have. If you don't have them, it's probably not going to work out. But the preferred qualifications are things you don't necessarily have to have, but the employer would like you to have. And so you want to look at those really carefully, and maybe if you don't meet it exactly, but you have close to it, or you can word your application and your resume in a way that actually makes it look like you do have it, or meeting it very closely, that a lot of times that's going to help you over the hump and get into the shorter stack of applications that are coming in. And obviously, if you do have these preferred qualifications, you want to make that very high on your resume and very easy to find so they can find those things. And then there's also a lot of screening questions. Do you have a current license? Yes or no? Have you ever been committed of a crime? Have you ever committed a crime or been found guilty of a crime? Things like that. Make sure you answer those honestly. A lot of times, even if you put yes for something like a crime, it doesn't necessarily discount you. It's just they want to make sure that you're fair and that you're honest about it. If you put no, then you falsified an application, and that's going to be grounds for dismissal or termination 10 years later. I've heard of people getting fired years later for checking off or not answering this honestly to begin with. So make sure you're honest even if it's not really what you think that they want to hear. And then they'll ask you oftentimes for required documentations. This is probably going to be your license when you get it. You actually get a physical license. Picture of it, they may ask you for that. And they just ask you for the numbers on it. Transcripts maybe, copies of your diploma, things like that. So this is a typical job description, very basic. What I usually do, kind of when I'm starting to work out, write your resume or help a student write a resume, we'll take this job description and we'll put it into one of two things. Usually I use the word counter, which will show you, you copy and paste the description in there, gives you representation of which words were used and how many times they were used. I like this better just because it's easier for me. I'm kind of a visual person, so I usually will paste it into Wordle. Everybody seen these before? So I use this just so I can see which words are important. So you can look on here and see patient, maintains, care, team, supplies, equipment, things like that, nurse. These are important words that come up a lot in the job description. So when you're writing your resume, you want to make sure you kind of make a list of these top 5 or 6 words and make sure that your resume is containing them, because whoever wrote the job description will be looking at your resume. You want to try and find these words in there and mirror them as best you can, because it'll help your resume look like a closer match. So, resumes themselves, 30 to 60 seconds to sell yourself. So you're going to spend hours working on your resume, trying to get it just right. If you submit it over to us, it generally takes 3 to 5 reviews back and forth to get your resume approved by our office. I'll just let you know that now. And we review about 2,000 resumes a year. We don't need to do any more than we want to do, but it usually takes 3 to 5 reviews per student to get the resume kind of through our system. So you're going to spend a lot of time working on it. The first time somebody looks at your resume, an employer is probably going to be about 30 to 60 seconds. So when an employer is looking at your resume, they're not looking for reasons really to like you. They're really looking for reasons to not like you. Because they've got this stack, and they've got to get it down to a manageable stack. Okay, it's easier in a lot of ways to find mistakes and reasons not to push your resume along than it is to find those really good qualities about you. And we're all kind of judgmental people, and so when we see people or meet them the first time, sometimes we sometimes come up with those negatives or that's weird kind of thing. Employers are doing the same thing. They've got to get that stack down to a smaller, manageable list so that they can start calling those people in for interviews. So 30 to 60 seconds to sell yourself the first time around. Now, they'll go back and look at your resume a little bit closer when they call you in for an interview, and probably when you're sitting down for the interview, they're going to read a little bit closer. But that first time, you got to make sure it gets past those 30 to 60 seconds. Keep it to 1 to 2 pages. A 5-page resume, you may have a lot of experience, but 5-page resume is just not really going to help you that much. In some ways, it's probably going to hurt you. So you want to make sure your resume is either 1 page or 2 pages. I would say for y'all, because I know the experience that y'all have out in the field through your clinicals and stuff here, and also anything else you've got, a 2-page resume is probably what you're looking for. That's about the right amount of space to be able to sell yourself adequately. One thing about the 2 pages, though, if you go to a second page, you need to use the entire second page. So, why would you think that? Why would that be? Right now, white space is part of it, yeah. So, any other ideas about that? So if you're in the hospital and you go into the supply cabinet and you grab a whole roll of gauze and you use half of it and you throw the rest on the floor, what did you just do? You just wasted resources, right? Which turns into money and then it adds up over time. Same thing with a resume. If you're not using all the resources that are available to you, that shows an employer that you're a wasteful person. Either A, you're wasteful, B, you're lazy, or C, that you just don't take advantage of all the opportunities that are given to you by filling out the second page. You could use that page to sell yourself. You don't see billboards that are only half used and the other half just blank because they didn't have enough to say, right? They're going to use the whole billboard. Same thing with your resume. Make sure you're using all of what's given to you. Customize it for every job announcement. This doesn't mean you have to write the whole resume over. It just means that there's certain parts of your resume, and we're going to talk about those parts in a minute, that you need to change to match that job description specifically. Because every job description is going to be a little bit different. It's going to have different requirements, different minimum qualifications, and preferred qualifications. You want to make sure your resume is matching that as well as it can. Match the language, we talked about that already with the Wordle. Dates, numbers, and details. If you've got a whole page of words, but you got some numbers in there, eyes are going to be drawn to those numbers. So if you see, what's in a good day, how many patients would you see in a shift? 20 or 2 or 6?
Depends on where you're working.
Depends on where you're working and what. Okay, so if you're in an ER situation or something like that.
You see dozens.
Dozens. Okay, so that's a good. So if you put, managed up to 24 patients per shift, per 6-hour shift, or 8-hour shift, 10-hour shift, something like that. Give them some idea of how busy you've been and how much you're able to handle, if it's a good number. I mean, if you said handled 1 patient per hour, probably not going to be the best number, right? In certain situations. Now, in some others, it might be fine. Maybe mental health or something like that, maybe where you're having to spend more time with them, I don't know. But use numbers when you can, especially if they're good numbers. Don't use personal pronouns in a resume. Okay, it's not a personal story. You're not writing a biography of yourself. You wouldn't say I manage the XYZ. You would just say manage the XYZ. Drop out those personal pronouns. It just makes it sound more professional and less folksy. Putting I's in there. So I's, we's, us, they, them. All those personal pronouns do not use in the resume. They don't belong in the resume. Bullets, like I did here. Employers don't want to read large chunks of text. I've been on lots of hiring committees here, and I've looked at lots of resumes. If it's not a bullet and it's just a paragraph, I'm not even going to read it. I mean, I'll scan it, but I'm not going to get much out of it. If that same person has put those into bullets, and it doesn't mean it's just 2 words or anything like that. I mean, you can still have a sentence or a statement, but if it's in a bullet, my eyes can digest that easier. I can get a bite of information. I can take a bite, read it, take the next bite, read it. Big chunk of text, I'm just like, I don't feel like doing it. Employers aren't lazy, they just don't have time to spend a whole lot of time going through your resume trying to pick out the things that they need to pick out. So make it easy by putting it in easily digestible bullets. Save as a PDF. Always, if you're sending a resume to somebody, always in a PDF. Anybody know why? Can change, yes. And what is a PDF? In technical terms, it's more or less a picture. PDF is really kind of like a JPEG or any other picture file. You can't easily just change a PDF. If you do your resume on Word 2010 and you send it to me and I've got Word 2013 on my computer, what might happen when I open that document? It's completely formatted different, right? Because every version of Word is a little bit different. So you may have spent hours working on your resume having it exactly right. It's 2 pages, it's perfect first page, perfect second page, the line breaks are perfect, the margins are perfect, your fonts are nice, the ones you like. And then you send it to somebody in Word, they open it up, their computer's going to then decide how they want to show that resume. And so it could be completely different. Your resume could be completely jacked up. It could be 6 pages long now because there's a page break in there that your computer wasn't showing. And it just makes it look really bad. So, don't turn your future over to somebody else's computer to let them screw it up. Save it as a PDF, send it as a PDF, and it's going to come through and it's going to look exactly the same on every computer, right? It's basically like a scan or a picture. It can't be changed. So, I use this example here because, in my opinion, resumes are kind of like cereal boxes, okay? Everybody in here is going to have a different resume. You're all going to have a different cereal box. So when you go down the aisle at Walmart or Publix, and you go in the cereal aisle, do they all just say cereal, and this one contains nuts, and this one has a bunch of sugar in it, and it's not healthy for you, and this one says it's got a lot of brands to make it poop? It's not going to do that, right? I mean, they've all got these fancy pictures on them. They have their information in here. Tastes great. Magically delicious, whatever. So if you all put your resumes up on a shelf, it would look like a cereal aisle. Everybody's going to be different. You're going to have different things to sell. Everybody in here has different things that they're going to sell to an employer. Just like when you go down the aisle, they're all selling a different cereal to you. So just keep that in mind. You're just going to be different. Don't take somebody else and don't ask your friend for their resume and then just change their text to match your text, because then your resume is going to look the same. You may be applying for the same job. You want to stand out. You want to differentiate yourself. So make sure you do that. Okay, so here's a resume, basic resume. I think this example, I have a couple different examples probably in your packet there. I have some different resumes. One of them I think is a specific nursing resume that came from a student from a year or two ago. And I was looking at it this morning, I even noticed a mistake on it. So even though these resumes have been through our vetting process, I found a mistake on it again today. So it happens. There's no perfect resume. A million ways to do a resume. There's no perfect way to do it. There's a lot of ways to do a resume wrong, and we're trying to avoid that the best we can. So, typical resume. There's different sections on it. So this is, we talked about your resume is going to be looked at for about 30 to 60 seconds. This is a study that I was reading about where recruiters were given a resume and they had eye tracking software, cameras in front of them, watched where their eyes were going, put it on the resume, and so this is how long in 60 seconds, this is how long this is where the recruiter looks at the resume. So you spend hours and hours doing this resume, this is what they did. So the darker the color, obviously the longer their eyes were on the page in that area. So you see down here, this is a student here, or this is actually an experienced professional, so his education or her education is at the bottom. Most of y'all, you're probably going to have your education closer to the top because this is really what you're selling, is that you're a new grad. So the recruiter looked at the education section for a good amount of time. Right here they looked, this is the most recent job. They looked here at some of the job duties that the person had, or the summary of that job they had. They kind of scanned, you can see how they scanned and picked up on specific words in those bullets. Looked at the next job, picked up on a couple of words in the bullets, and went down the page, okay? So not a lot of opportunity to sell yourself in 30 to 60 seconds, and this is what the recruiters are doing. They're just scanning it real quickly to try and find what they can find. And then they're deciding, does it go in this pile, or does it go in this pile? And usually this pile is the round thing that's next to the door. It's called trash can, usually, okay? So you want to be on the pile that's over here, not in the round pile over by the door, okay? Because that one gets emptied every day. You're really going to be gone. So keep this in mind. And then, and we talk about white, you mentioned white space, you see there's very little white space. He used the whole page, or she used the whole page to sell themselves. Got it all on there. So take advantage of the space you have. Okay, So top of your resume, we're going to work top of your resume down real quickly. Contact information. Make sure you have your name at the top. I get resumes all the time that don't have names on them. So I'm not sure what the thought process behind that is. And here's the thing: just because the name of your resume, maybe it says, like mine might say Brian Weese resume, that file does not mean that that file name is going to go with that resume once it gets printed and dispersed among different departments on campus or on the hospital or something like that, okay? So make sure your name's on it. Just because your file has your name on it does not mean that your resume should not have a name. I mean, make sure it's on there. Professional email address, okay? We suggest you use if you want to use your student email, that's fine. You can still have that used for that for quite a while after you graduate. Not your baby's daddy at Yahoo is probably not the best. Not the best email address to put on a resume, okay? And yesterday I got kitten kisses 12 at Gmail, I think is what it was. Who knows what that? I don't know what that means, but make sure it's just some iteration of your first and last name is probably the best thing to do, because then if your resume is actually your email address has your name in it, and so they know when they're sending that resume, when they send you an email, they know they're sending it to the right place, because it says brian.weese@gmail or john.smith@yahoo, whatever. Make sure it's professional email address. Current address. You can use, and also when I'll add to this, I don't think I put it on here, current address, but also a local address. So if you're applying for a job here in Brunswick, use a local address. If you were to apply for a job in Augusta, and you know somebody in Augusta, or maybe you're planning on moving there and you kind of know where you're moving, if you have family in Augusta or something like that, I suggest you use a local address whenever you can. Now, it doesn't mean if you're moving to Bangor, Washington, they just make up an address and put it on there. But if you can, or you have the opportunity or the ability to use a local address, use one. If that's where you're moving, you're planning on being there, because you want to be seen as, I think, in my opinion, you want to be seen as a local candidate. I've been on committees here where we had candidates and we were trying to whittle it down. We were down to about 5 candidates. It was for a job that wouldn't pay necessarily a whole lot. And so we're looking at this guy who's from Washington State, and he's going to have to fly here on his own dime to come interview for this job. We'd already looked at a couple other candidates, and we were pretty big on them. So we're thinking about this, it's like, he had the qualifications, but he's from Washington. Do we really want to make him come all the way across the country and fly to see us? He probably would have, but that thought process kind of goes through your mind. Do we want to put him through that? Because we're already looking at these other 2 candidates. If he had put a local address, we probably wouldn't have thought anything of it. He would have flown here, interviewed, maybe he got a job, I don't know. I just suggest using a current address or a local address when you can. But also make sure it's current, that you can get mail there, because they may send you a background check form or something like that. Usually it's going to email it to you, but they may send you some things through the mail. Make sure you can get them if they need to get a hold of you. Professional voicemail, ringback tones. Does anybody have a ringback tone anymore? Yeah. Okay. Remember that? Please enjoy the music while your party is reached. Okay. So, and then you got to listen to Baby Got Back for 30 seconds before you can leave your message. Which, when I was in HR, when I was hiring people, if I got that, I would just hang up and I'd move on to the next candidate. So I don't think anybody uses those anymore, but I still keep this in here because every once in a while you'll come across somebody. We know it doesn't take you 30 seconds to connect a phone call on a cell phone, right? It's like that. So where did that, I don't know where that ringback tone thing came with. You had to sit there and listen to 15, 20 seconds of music. Doesn't make any sense. And professional email, leave your name on there in your email, on your voicemail, saying, hi, you've reached Brian Weese, I'm not available at the moment. Use your name, not mine. You've reached so-and-so. Please leave a message, I'll get back to you, okay? One thing, you want them to know that they call the right person. So by putting your name in it, they know they've got the right person. But also make sure it's professional and that leaves the information. You say, hey, he hit me back. It's probably not, or whatever it is. Don't do that, okay? At least for the time that you're looking for a job. Once you get the job, you can do whatever you want. But you want to make sure, because sometimes I call people and I'm like, I don't even know if I called the right person, so I'll hang up and maybe call again. And sometimes it's just really unprofessional. I'll just move on to the next person. That's that first impression, which is important. So make sure it's a good one. Basic information, phone numbers, zip codes, whatever. Make sure it's all on there. Okay, the next part underneath your contact information is either going to be a summary of qualifications, a summary, a skills summary. some combination of those words. And basically, the thing here is this is the part of the resume you're going to change based on the job you're applying for. Okay? If you're applying for an ER nurse, or you're applying for a peds area or something like that, you're going to want to, this is the part you're going to change to match the job requirements that that job is specifically asking for. Okay? So summary qualifications is basically, if I said, why should I hire you? Give me 5 reasons to hire you. This is where you put those 5 reasons. Okay? So the first one could be recent or pending BSN graduate. Could be one of them. I mean, that's something you want to sell, right? If you have X number of years in healthcare already, you might want to put 7 years of healthcare experience in whatever area. Look at the job description, see what they're requiring or what they're wanting. Put those like 5 or 6 bullets in there to help sell you. Because this is what they're going to read the most. This is probably what they're first going to read. This is what they're going to look for. And they're going to try and find out, is this person going to meet the requirements? And it's a summary of your resume. It's just like writing an English paper. The first paragraph is your opening paragraph. It kind of talks about what you're going to talk about in the rest of your English paper. Same thing on a resume. This is what I'm going to talk about in the rest of my resume if you read the rest. So I want you to kind of capture your attention and make you want to read more about me. So these are the 5 or 6 or whatever things you need to know about me. If you read the rest of my resume, you're going to find that out. If you have license and certifications, you can put those on here. Obviously, everybody here is going to be pending on your nursing, right? You got to take the NCLEX? Yep. When do you take that? After you graduate? When you have time? Before graduation or after graduation? June. Okay. So you probably would put that on there. You wouldn't necessarily have your license yet and all that, right? But anything else you've got, CPR's first aid, obviously everybody here has that. First responder or whatever else you've got. I don't generally tell you to put test scores on unless you really scored like as high as you can. But I think the NCLEX is pass or fail, right? Mm-hmm. So there's not going to be a test score.
Except for HESIs, we do HESIs if you're 850 or above, or especially 900 and above, then you could include those and just bullet them and what test it was and what your score was.
Yeah.
Some hospitals know what HESIs are, some don't. Some hospitals want to know your exit HESI and they only hire if you scored 900 or above.
And that probably would be listed in the job description somewhere. And if it is listed in the job description, if it says must have scored 900 or higher in the HESI and you got a 950, then obviously you would want to put that. If you got an 825, you probably wouldn't want to put that because it wouldn't sell you. So yeah, include test scores if they're good. And that includes GPAs. Include GPAs if they're over 3.0. If they're under 3.0, then you're not going to include them at all. I just hope that they don't ask. Not that under 3.0 is necessarily a bad GPA. It's just that you only want to sell the good things about yourself. So, or the best. Education, obviously you're going to most of y'all are probably going to use education pretty high on your resume because you're all getting ready to graduate. You've worked really hard on this degree. This is what you want to sell to employers. So put expected in front of your graduation date. Even though you haven't graduated yet, just put expected May 2017 on your resume. And it would look something like this. GPA, again, over. And there's a lot of ways to list your GPA. You can list GPA overall. You can do, I've seen people use GPA in major, because a lot of times once you get into your major, you do a lot better. So if you know what your GPA in major is, it's a 3.7, but your GPA before you got into the program was 2.5, you use the one that works the best. So you can kind of manage or massage the way you list things by just the words that you use. Okay, so next section you can use is relevant coursework. This is helpful for people who don't have a lot of work experience. Sometimes I'll have them put in the classes that they've taken because they haven't been working much, they've just been taking classes. So we'll put in their classwork, so it kind of gives them a section of good things to put down. They've taken this class, and this class. I usually would suggest you do them like this. Put the prefix in there, and then the class that you've taken. I think it just helps solidify that this is an actual class. If you just put nursing leadership and management, it's a class name or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily tie to a specific course. So I think putting the prefixes in there helps. Plus, then if they look at your if you send a transcript along, they can see that they match it up. Have you ever been to any conferences or anything as part of your program? Good. A couple of you. Anybody been to conferences or something? outside of the program, maybe gone to something that's like leadership related, or maybe with a nonprofit or something like that. Anything you've gone to in those ways is always a section you could add to your resume if you need to. Has anybody done any presentations? I know most of y'all probably done some service learning presentations, poster presentations, right? Sometimes that can look really good, especially if you're applying for maybe a teaching hospital or something like that, or a hospital that works really closely and does a lot of presentations to groups and out in the community, things like that. If you've done some presentations, it's a good thing to put on there. If I were going to put a presentation on a resume, I'd probably do it kind of in a APA or MLA style, like you're doing a citation. So it'd be like, mine would be Weese.B, and then the name of the presentation I gave, and then maybe the dates and where I gave it, kind of thing. Kind of do it like you would cite something on a paper. And then conferences, if you've been to them, things like that. That just shows that you're willing to go out and learn, and continue learning as an employee.
Does that include continuing education?
Yeah. So if it's something, if it's legitimate. I mean, if it's offered by, if it's offered by a college or university or a community partner.
No, I mean like nursing continuation.
Yeah, I would definitely put that stuff in. Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With the education part, would you put another degree that you have if it's not relevant to the job that you're?
That's a good question. Yeah, two things. How many of y'all transferred from another school? Okay. So if you have another degree, I think it's important to put it, just because it shows that you're willing to go out and learn more and things like that. So like you had a bachelor's in business and you came back and got a bachelor's in nursing. I think that's fine. What I don't suggest you do is if you transferred from another school and you didn't get a degree from that school, I don't think you don't need to put it at all, because it brings up questions, and maybe your motives were fine, but why did you transfer from another school? Did you not make it at that school? Did you flunk out, and so that's why you came to Coastal and now you got your degree? Could be a question that an employer might either ask you or just read into. Do you move around a lot? Are you not going to stay here at this hospital very long? You didn't stay at school very long. You didn't stay at this hospital very long. So if you didn't get a degree from the school, I wouldn't list it at all, because all your credits then transferred into CCGA, right? Hopefully most of them anyway, right? So if you didn't get a degree, you're getting your degree from here, even though you got some classes somewhere else. So really, you're crediting CCGA with your degree, not the other schools that you attended. And it just makes your resume kind of clunky and confusing if you've got a bunch of schools on there, especially if you get a degree from them or a diploma or anything like that, certificate or something. So I would use them.
Quick question.
Yeah.
With the degrees, because I know we're getting our bachelor's now, but sometimes, like if we transferred from another school, they'll award an Associates of Science in Pre-Nursing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Would we,
You can,
label
because you
that
actually
as
were
well?
awarded a degree.
okay,
If you just took class, if you just took coursework there, I wouldn't list it, but if you actually got a degree there, if you want to list it, you can.
okay.
Honestly, Associates in Science and Nursing, which is really, it's
In
trumped
pre-nursing.
by, in pre-nursing too, it's
Yeah.
trumped by your BSN. And so the fact that you got the Associates is kind of irrelevant once you've got the
That's
BSN.
why I was
Yeah,
asking.
so- To me, I probably wouldn't put it,
Okay.
unless you went to like Vanderbilt or someplace, and it's just a really good name, or something, and maybe it was maybe you're applying for a school, or a job in that town where that college is, maybe you would put it just to kind of anchor it, but for the most part, I wouldn't bother with it. It's trumped really by the higher degree. Experience here. All of y'all have your clinical experience, right? So you definitely want to list that on your resume. If you've been working either before you came to college or while you're in college, your professional paid experience. You can also count volunteer work as experience. You don't have to get paid to call it experience. Any kind of experience is good experience, in my opinion. So you want to list that or get credit for it on your resume somewhere. And we'll talk about how to do that. So, we've got two different ways to list experience. And, I think it depends on the student, it depends on what you need on your resume, on which way to do it. This is one way you can do it, where you would just list, you have a section in your resume called clinical experience, and you would list the sites that you went to and the dates that you did it, maybe how many hours you did, so that the office, the doctor's office or the hospital who, getting ready to hire you can see your progression and see where you've been and what you've done, and see how much experience you've got in it. And this is going to be pretty typical. I mean, most nursing programs are probably going to have similar layouts, hours, requirements, things like that. So you can do it like this. And then you can list other job experience and stuff you have to use that for more space. Or you can do your clinical experience like this, where you've actually taken each clinical experience and you're kind of anchoring it with some bullets, some job bullets on what you did on that site. And it just kind of depends on what kind of experience, how much experience you need, and whether you need this or not. If you've been in a doctor's office or something for years already, maybe you don't need to do this because you've got the experience in other ways. But if you're short or you're looking for ways to better sell the experience you have, you can do it this way. And that's up to you. And again, it depends on what you need on your resume. Yes?
Can you just do select sections as it relates to the job you're applying for? So rather than, like, if I wanted to do the ER, I wouldn't put pediatrics or obstetrics on there? You know that?
Yes, you don't have to, but I think it's good to show a well-rounded applicant. So what you want to get into a certain area, maybe you want to make a bigger deal out of that specific area, but I do think you want to show the other areas and the other rotations you've done, so that they can see that you've got the kind of a wide-ranging experience. Now, I wouldn't want to just put down, if you just like the mental health counseling or the mental health rotation, I wouldn't just make a big deal out of that and just leave everything else off. I think I would still utilize all your experience to some degree. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, again, you're gonna target your resume for that specific department too. But I don't think you wanna leave off things that might show that you're well-rounded, you can work in other areas and things like that. Because it could come in that you go and you get hired on in a department, and next thing you know is that, hey, we're shorthanded over here, we need you to go over there. So they may be thinking about, if you have to move around a little bit or something like that, you'll be able to handle it. If you don't want to, but. Okay. So if you're going to use this, and then you would also use the same format for other areas of your resume, like in your part-time job, your full-time job. This, I would suggest you're going to need to put some bullet statements or some descriptions of what you're doing and what you've done somewhere on your resume. And so there's a sheet in your packet there called the STAR method, or the STAR worksheet. And honestly, this is the hardest part of writing a resume, is trying to describe what you've done in your jobs. It's really hard to start, but once you've done it, once you've done about one or two of these STAR statements, they kind of start to flow a little better. But that's really the hardest part. And so when you're writing a bullet for a job, you want to describe what you did, how you did it, and why you did it, or the result of doing it. And that's one bullet. So if you've got a job, the what, the how, plus the why is one bullet. And then you do the next bullet. What plus how plus why is the second bullet. What plus what, how, third bullet. Okay, that's the hardest part because a lot of times students will undersell themselves on the resume, and they'll just put started IVs. Okay, there's a lot that goes into starting an IV, right? You don't just walk up to somebody and just jam it in there, right? There's a process to that, right? So let's use that as an example. What is the process to starting an IV? So what you do, like if you're using this STAR statement there, the what you did was started IVs, okay? What's the process that goes into that? What's the first thing you do when you're told to do an IV? Do what?
Gather your supplies.
Gather supplies, okay. So the first thing in the how is gather supplies, okay? And what do those supplies include?
IV start kit, IV catheter,
Tubing, flush.
when it gets gone,
Oh,
gets bleed, you have to restart.
Tubing.
Alcohol.
Right.
Alcohol swabs.
Okay. Swabs, all that stuff. Okay. So gather supplies, that's part of it. Okay, what's the next part of starting an IV? So you gather your supplies,
Inform the patient what you know. Yeah.
inform the patient. Okay? Okay. Then what?
Wash your hands.
Okay. Okay, then what?
Assess the patient.
Assess the patient. Okay,
Gloves.
put on gloves.
try to provide comfort to the patient.
Staff? Prep the site,
Yeah.
prep site, tourniquet. Is that part of prepping the site, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
1, 2, 3, fix it.
Apply. Insert, okay. Okay, and so we got the what, the how, and then the why or the result. Why are you doing this?
Maintain fluid work-life balance.
Okay, maintain fluid, or administer meds, right? Okay.
Intravenous access.
IV access. Okay. So, our original bullet was just started IV, okay? But, and so if you were to send me a resume that had started IV as one of your bullets, I'm gonna put it back and say STAR, okay? And so now you'll know what STAR is that so, started IVs by gathering supplies including IV start kits, catheter, tubing, gauze, alcohol, inform the patient of the procedure, wash hands, and sanitize site, assess the patient, provide comfort. You know, that's the process you're going to go through in a statement. Does that make sense? Okay. You got to add some better language to it, but
Is
what
that
you
gonna
do-
get long?
it could be like you look at, you know, when I showed you on this previous slide. It doesn't have to be a, you know, again, I don't want to see paragraphs or something like that, but you want to see a 1 or 2 line statement. I'd rather see 3 or 4 like really well-written bullets that are descriptive, that really show your skills and your knowledge, than a list of 20 bullets that just said started IV, took out the trash, flipped hamburgers. I mean, that's, you know, I would rather see a couple good statements are going to sell you a lot better than just this long list of just things that you were told to do, but you're not anchoring it to you. You're not showing your knowledge and your responsibilities as according to that bullet. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Yes?
Is it okay to exclude experience that's not relevant to the job?
Yes, so if it's something you did that's not relevant, you don't have to, you know, the resume doesn't have to have every job you ever had since you were 12 years old, okay? You know, if you cut the grass for Miss Smith, don't have to put that, right? It's not relevant. But a lot of things can be relevant. How many of y'all have waited tables? Okay. Is that relevant to customer service, care, multitasking, record keeping, you know, customer satisfaction, all that stuff? I mean, serving retail and hospitality are very, very useful for y'all because it shows that you have that. Well, it shows you have the it factor, which is very hard, and hospitality talks about a lot, the it factor, and y'all have it too. You know, I'm not going to go behind people and clean up their blood and poop, okay? I'm not doing it. That's why I do what I do. But y'all are willing to do that. You may not want to do it, but you're willing to do it, okay? So, when my kids throw up, I'm the one in the hallway, looking around the door like this, my wife's in there wiping it up, okay? You know, from the doorway, you know, I'm doing it. I'm not doing it, okay? But y'all have that factor. You have that interest and the ability to be able to do that, okay? So, you want to show that in hospitality, restaurants, you know, retail, all of that kind of shows that. So I would use things like that and just make it relevant. You got to think about how that job as a server at Outback applies to being a nurse. And it's the customer care, the record keeping, the multitasking, the busy environment, being able to handle multiple things at once, all that stuff really plays into nursing really, really well. Any other questions on that? Does everybody understand the STAR statement? It's hard to get started on it, but once you've done about 2 of them, they just start flowing. It's just like, yeah.
If you have the same job title but at 2 different places, would you put bullets under both, or could you just?
I would do bullets under both. I wouldn't do the same bullets. Okay? Once you sold something once, you really don't necessarily have to sell it again too much. Okay? And when you buy a car and the salesman says it has 10 cup holders, you say, okay, great. He goes, oh, and it has 10 cup holders. I say, okay, good. Well, it has 10 cup holders. Okay, you don't have to say it. Okay, we get it. It has 10 cup holders. That's great. Okay? So you've already sold that. So then use the space to sell something different.
Okay.
You know, because you can put, you know, you just think about that job, because even if you're a waitress or a waiter at 2 different places, your job's a little bit different. Or, you know, whatever job it is, it's going to be a little bit different. Pick up on the things that are different. That way you're selling a whole range of things instead of selling the same things twice or 3 times.
I do have
Yeah.
one more question. So would you put, I'm trying to decide where I would put a specific excerpt, like under, I was a waitress at a country club,
Mhm.
and I was in charge of making sure that the first aid kit for employees stayed stocked, and when something was used, I would document it, and then go out
Refill
and
it.
make sure it's refilled. Would I
Yeah.
put that under relevant experience or under the job?
Now, you put that under the job that is tied to.
Okay.
Okay, you're always going to keep your job duties and your bullets tied to the job that they go with. Now, you may put in your summary of qualifications a bullet that kind of relates to that, you know, experience of performing inventory and inventory management and resupply of medical, whatever, you know, something like that. So, question?
Yeah, is there like a cutoff on how far back you go? Like, I volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House 10 years ago, but they don't really care about that, right? Is it like 5 years or?
I wouldn't make a big deal out of that. You may put that in, you see there's like a section in there for volunteer experience, and maybe it's just a one-line, volunteer, Ronald McDonald House, 2007, or
Okay.
something like that, okay?
But it
You don't-
doesn't look bad to be reaching that far back.
You don't have to. I mean, I think the thing that all of y'all have, an advantage all of y'all have, regardless of how old you are, you're selling yourself as a recent college graduate, okay? So you could be 50 or you could be 22. On the resume, you all look like you're 22, 23, 24. Right? It doesn't matter, because all they're seeing is, and you don't put high school on a resume. Never, ever, ever put high school on a resume, okay? Because they can quickly do the math and figure out how old you are. Because we all graduated high school probably around 18, right? So maybe earlier, maybe a little later. But don't ever put high school on, because it's irrelevant. You had to go to high school to get to college. You graduate from college, we know you went to high school somewhere, it doesn't even matter, it's just a waste of space. And it sets you up for age discrimination. So every one of you is graduating at 24 years old at the end of the semester, right, regardless of how old you are. Because from an employer's perspective, all they're seeing is recent college graduates in 2017. Oh, okay, they must be 24 years old. Doesn't matter how old you are. Well, you can, and that's where if you're putting your, well,
Like I went to college when I was.
you went to college
when I
early.
was a junior in high school, yeah. Like
You could put in like in some of your activities, you know, some area you
But I
maybe put,
graduated college in the same year. but-
some of your honors, you put graduated with honors, graduated early, something like that.
Because on a resume, it kind of looks like I'm lying by graduating college and high school in the same year.
Yeah, but
So-
you're not putting high school on there. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I don't think this, I mean, the fact you graduate high school is laudable and nice, but I don't know that it really necessarily sells you. And
Okay.
it may undersell you because they say, well, she's not very experienced, she's kind of young. Yeah, yes.
So, I know that a lot of the job applications I've done, like, you submit your resume and then have you also fill in all the information. And sometimes you have to put in your high school information.
You do, and if you have to, you have to.
Okay.
But when you're doing a cereal box, they don't put, this is full of crap and it's gonna make you sick, you know, it's gonna make you fat. They don't put that on there, right? It's the same thing with the resume. You don't have to put the stuff that necessarily doesn't sell you the best.
Well, I mean, what happens when we get to the interview and we're clearly not 22?
Well, it's illegal for one thing for them to take that into consideration, but you didn't lie, you just presented the information you wanted to present, and they read what they wanted to read. And also, but also though, if you're gonna put down that you've had 8 years of experience working, they're gonna know that you probably didn't start working when you were 14 or whatever. So they can read into that. And not saying that age is a bad thing, sometimes age can be very, very good. You've got experience, and if you have the experience to back that up. I'm just saying, I don't think a high school
We
diploma
have
is gonna help.
experience as a stay-at-home mom is not really counted as experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's not gonna necessarily sell, but you can talk about your maybe some volunteer stuff, the PTA and things like that, I mean, you can sell it. It's just, again, you may have experience that nobody else is gonna have, so you need to sell that experience. All right, do you have any questions? You may move on and keep going, yeah. Okay. We'll come back to questions, okay? I think I put this in here just to give you a list of starting words. Every bullet needs to start with an action verb, okay? So don't put patient confidentiality as a bullet. You know, you need to maintain patient confidentiality, okay? A lot of people sometimes just think that they're going to put a list of things that they did and not anchor that to anything. Start with a verb, write your statement, start statement, what, how, and why. Start it with a verb. Use the right verb tense. If it's the current job, it's maintains. If it's a previous job, it would be maintained. Okay? I don't like ing verbs, maintaining. That's a weaker verb. It doesn't look as good. It's either maintains or maintained. I would stay away from maintaining as the leading verb or whatever, any ing word. They're called gerunds, they're weaker versions of verbs. In your English class, you probably forgot, but I wouldn't use it. Professional associations, everybody here's member CGANs, that's great. I'd also suggest maybe you go out and join some of these associations, professional associations, while you're a student. Because why? Because it's cheaper, okay? You can join, and this is, I think I looked this up last year, American Nurses Association is $10 for students, and it was 80 or 100 or something for non-students, for professionals. So join it, put it on your resume, it looks really good, it doesn't cost very much, and then you're going to start getting like newsletters, email, or magazines talking about your industry, which is really good, because then you can read up on it, and then you go out and talk and then interview. You go, well, I was reading in the American Nurses Association journal about this article where, like, where did that, that's a little bomb that you just dropped on them. Wow, this person can read too, that's great. Okay? So it just shows a little extra. So join them, you'll start getting information and stuff like that. You may go to a conference or something like that. So join things while you're a student, because then you can save a lot of money. Because you're probably going to need to join these when you graduate and you get into your job. So just good, cheap. $10 for a line on your resume that makes you look really good. That's a bargain. Those organizations, anything you've ever done, make sure you have that on your resume. Employers they want engaged employees. The way to show them you're going to be an engaged employee is be an engaged student. So any volunteer work you've done, any service learning things you've done, you also do the Teddy Bear Hospital. Yeah, that's a great thing. I think it's really good to put that on there. And it doesn't have to be you don't have to put a whole paragraph about it. You just put volunteer, Teddy Bear Hospital, May of 2016 or whatever. Just so they see that because that might bring up a conversation. Tell me about this Teddy Bear Hospital. I didn't know that there was a help with teddy bears. Talk about that, right? So, anybody volunteer for the bridge run? Good. Running in it? Good. Anybody volunteering to help with it? Who runs the bridge run? Who operates the bridge run? Who wants to work at the hospital?
This one?
Maybe you do. But here's the thing. You may be volunteering for the bridge run. You're there passing out water or packets or T-shirts. The guy next to you could be the CEO of the hospital. Or it could be the director of nursing on the telemetry floor, whatever. Okay? You never know who's going to be there. Because the bridge run, the hospital is very involved in that, while their employees are involved in that. Great way to network and kind of get out there and meet people too. So, and it looks good on your resume, especially if you're applying to the hospital here and you've been a volunteer at the bridge run the last 2 years. You've already supporting them, you're not even worked there yet. So, kind of nice to put it on it. Computer skills, things that you know. Put it on there. Microsoft has about a dozen programs in it, so don't just put knowledgeable of Microsoft Office, because how many of y'all know OneNote? Good. We know Access. Good. SharePoint? Okay. So make sure you list the ones that you do know. One, if you know, especially if you know some of the more obscure ones like Access, SharePoint, OneNote, things like that. That's really good. Everybody knows Excel, PowerPoint, things like that. But don't just put that you know Microsoft Office, because there may be a program you don't know. And then any of these the health informatics stuff that you do, Ethics, CERN, whatever the other ones are, list those, especially if it's the one that hospital's using or you know about. Honors and awards, anybody getting Hope, or gotten Hope, Pell? Okay, those are all scholarships. Pell Scholarship recipient 2016, Hope Scholarship recipient 2012 to the present, Rose Endowment, Bill or the Gusman Scholarship or whatever, all those things. Make sure you put them on there. And how many of y'all have made Dean's List, President's List? Okay, so you put 4 times Dean's List recipient 2012 to the present, 6-time President's List recipient 2015, 6 to 17, whatever. Put those on there. It just shows that you go above and beyond. Showing up every day is what you're required to do. That's the minimum to graduate, right? Showing up here. All these other things, getting good grades, getting passing grades is required. Getting really good grades and being recognized for them is above and beyond. And they want employees that go above and beyond. To show that by the honors and awards and stuff. References don't belong in a resume. Takes up space. You only have to put references available upon request. Obviously, if somebody asks you for references, you're going to provide them. Okay, do you need to write this on a resume? Do you write at the top of the resume, this is a resume? No, okay, so it's just not needed. Now, every Word program, every Word template in the world has resume, it has references available upon request at the bottom of it. You just delete that. Obviously, you're gonna send them if you need them, right? Make sure your references know that you put them as a reference. Okay? I got a call the other day and said, hey, so-and-so put you as a reference. I'm like, oh, that's nice. What can you tell me about it? I was like, very little right now off the top of my head. But if the kid had come to me and asked, hey, can I put you as a reference? I said, absolutely, yeah. Because I know him, he's a good kid. But I didn't know that, so I wasn't prepared for that. And so make sure your references know you're going to put them. If it's a professor or a coworker or a boss, make sure they know. And give them a copy of your resume so that they can read it over. They probably won't have it when the phone call comes, but they probably will have looked at it. And so they can say, oh yeah, so yeah, and they'll be prepared to talk about you, okay? They'll be prepared to talk to you about the first time they get called, and the second time. The third time, they're like, all right, I'm getting tired of getting called, okay? The 10th time, they're like, yeah, I know them, they worked here, they did a good job, okay? So references are perishable. It's like a gallon of milk, okay? The longer it sits out there on the counter, the more sour it gets, okay? So only use references when you have to use them, okay? Only give them out when you need them for the jobs that you're really serious about. If they start getting a lot of calls, and like the same kid that didn't ask for reference, he applied to 10 places and put me down. I got 10 phone calls. So he's a good applicant apparently, because everybody was calling. But the first ones were like really, really good. By the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I know him, he's a good kid, whatever. But it wasn't my best at that point. So only send those references out to people who really, to companies that really, really need them, because they are going to kind of degrade over time. Cover letter, put a copy of the cover letter in your section, in your stuff there. Cover letter has 3 sections. Why I'm writing, what makes me the best candidate, and my plan of action. I think I put that in your packet, so pretty easy. We have Coastal Career Link, our online job posting system, and also have a resume writing program and a cover letter writing program in it. It'll write the cover letters, they're already pre-written, you just fill in the blanks, and it'll write them for you if you want, or you can use, I think, the letter that's in there. After you interview, make sure you send them a thank you note. 2 ways. First one would be an email, probably the same day that you interview, saying, I appreciate the interview. I really enjoyed talking about the position with, make sure you list that position. I would send a handwritten note too, okay? So when I interview for a job, I take thank you cards with me in the car. I get out to the parking lot, I immediately write those thank you notes, okay? Because it's still fresh in my mind. It's going to take them 2 days to get it, because I'm going to put a stamp on it and put it in the mail. Anybody know, you all seen stamps before, right? You know what those are for. They're not just for bills. Okay, you can actually get cards and stuff with them too. So I write the letter in the car in the parking lot. I put a stamp on it. And I go find the nearest post office or mailbox and put them in there. They get them like 2 days later. So when you send that email, they're like, oh, that was nice. And then they sent me an email, and then they do what? Delete, right? That card, though, comes 2 days later. They've already read your email. Now they're reading this card that you sent them, a handwritten card. It says, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Now that I've learned more about Southeast Georgia Health System, I think this is really a place that I'd be interested, want to pursue. Restate your interest, but then also like, oh, that was nice, and they sent me a card, and they lay it down on their desk, and then the next day they come in and their card may still be on their desk. Okay, I've got a thank you card on my desk. It's been there for 6 months. I just kind of throw it in the corner, and it's been sitting there, and actually I have a stack of them. But every once in a while, that thank you card kind of comes up again. So I think it's important to do a handwritten one. And then a phone call, maybe 2 weeks later, might be good. This is our office. Everybody know where this is? Okay. Have you seen this? Little red sign right there. That's my office. Come in and see me. Last thing, real quickly, I'm going to show you is how to submit your resume for a review. Oops. Has anybody been on Coastal Career Link before? Hurts my heart. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Anybody notice the portal's changed in the last couple of days?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't know that till today.
Oh.
Today, the first day?
Yes.
Nice to tell us about this stuff. Although I like it because now you can find my stuff, whereas before you could not find it. So even though they didn't tell me about it, I do like it. See, it's different now. Totally blew my mind. Okay. I'm not enrolled. Okay. So over here, you've got all your emails, D2Ls, and all that stuff that you guys use all the time. Right here, very first one, I love it. Coastal Career Link right there, okay? So if you're logged into the portal, you click on Coastal Career Link, it takes you into our system. It's not gonna take me in because I'm not a student. But it would take you in. If it doesn't take you in and just brings you to this, it's gonna be your 9200 number and your campus password. I'm not a student either, so I can't put that. That's right. Okay, so this is Coastal Career Link. It's not going to have your picture on it unless you want your picture on there. And there is a profile you can fill out in here, and it's kind of like LinkedIn. You can send this profile out to employers, and they can look at your online profile if you want. We even have a phone app now. You can download the app through the phone. But here, a couple things that I want you all to see is if you want to look for jobs, we have our jobs in here. I just posted some jobs with in Phoenix City over in Alabama. They just contacted me yesterday. They had some nursing positions they wanted to advertise, so we have those advertised on our system. Sometimes Savannah, Effingham County, I think Effingham Hospital has some positions, so there are some nursing positions up in the system here. So when you click in the jobs section, it will show you. Today I have 114 jobs in here. They're full-time, part-time, local, non-local, and you can do a search and narrow it down by industry, things like that. You want to do healthcare. It'll show you the positions that are available. And they change from time to time. That's not really labeled right, but and also in the document section, if you want to submit a resume to me, you click over here in documents. You can pretty much click in approved. You just click on add new. And what you'll do is you'll upload your resume from your computer. Just attach it and maybe name it. You can tell me what kind of document it is, cover letter, resume, anything. Name it, hit submit. It sends it over to us. So we get them every morning. We print out every resume that comes in, and we spend a day proofreading in between presentations and stuff. So you'll get a review back, handwritten review back, within about 24 hours, unless it's a Friday. I don't work on the weekend. I do go home sometimes. So you'll get it on Monday, okay? But you can do this at midnight, 10 o'clock at night. When you got a few minutes, you want to submit your resume, you submit it to the system, comes in, the next morning we print them, review them, send them back to you. Has anybody ever had a review by us? Did that make you cry?
I didn't complete all the steps of it, I just went through, I didn't have time. But,
Okay. It may make you cry the first time, but that's not our intent. But also, I'd rather hurt your feelings and have your resume nice than make you feel good about yourself and not get a job. So, I mean, we're kind of the opposite of Hard Knocks, and we do tell it like it is. So, while it may not make you feel good that first time you get the review back, we are trying to make sure that your documents are in good shape. If you don't have a resume at all and you want to, you can use our resume builder. And in here we've got different resumes. I've got one for education majors. I have one this nursing, healthcare, ASN, BSN, radiology. So you could use this template right here. Here's all the sections. You can add sections. You can move them around, up and down, whatever you want. In a few minutes, really, by just typing in the information that you got, you can come up with the basics of a good start to a resume. So right there is taking the information from Banner that we have on y'all, just put it in. You may need to go through and change your degree a little bit to make it worded right. But you can click on the section, like you want to put in your clinical experience, you click on here, and you type in the location of your most recent clinical experience. Position, the dates, starting date, ending date, and here's where you do your star statements. And you put bullets in, do your star statements, type them in, and you hit submit, then that job is in. And then you can add the next job or the next location, things like that. So you can keep going through it. When you're done, all you gotta do is hit save and continue, and hit submit, and it comes over to us for review. Very, very easy. You can also change, if you don't like the way it looks, you can change the layout of it. If you don't like the way this one, see here, it's a little bit different. If you don't like the way that one looks, click on this one. Kind of rearranges your resume. Microsoft Word doesn't do that. So once, whatever format you pick for Microsoft Word, you're stuck with it. This one will actually move things all over your page, reorder and things like that very easy. So it's kind of nice. Good way to get your resume started. Okay. Question?
You mentioned LinkedIn. Would you recommend that, or is that more?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't have LinkedIn, and this is the reason I would say LinkedIn, and I think you need to go through LinkedIn and be very, and fill it out pretty good, because employers are going to Google you. They're going to. okay? It's free, it's easy, and it's not traceable, really, okay? So they're gonna Google you. So if all you have is your Facebook account, and that's what they find when they Google you, that's what's gonna sell you, okay? And so I would have your LinkedIn in there because it's, oh, they've got a LinkedIn account. Well, let me look at that. Yeah, they're probably gonna look at your Facebook too. So go through your Facebook and clean it out, okay? Or lock it down, okay?
Yeah.
Lock it down.
Lock it
When I'm looking for a job, I go dark. You can't find me except for LinkedIn, okay? Because I went to Georgia Southern. I've got fraternity brothers that are friends of mine. We've got pictures. They tag me. I go back and untag myself, but the stuff is out there, okay? So I go dark, but I make sure they can find my LinkedIn because that's what I want them to find because it has all the good stuff. It's like the front, the front of the cereal box. They don't put the side of the cereal box that's got all the nutritional information on it, facing you. They put the front of the cereal box out there, right? Which is more important? Well, the nutritional information is, right? So lock it down. And I had a conversation with a student yesterday, and she had a really good point. If your Facebook is out there and you've got a picture of you and your kids, it's nice that you have kids. What does that tell me as an employer? You may be calling out. Your kids because not only have to worry about you getting sick, I now have to worry about your kids getting sick as well, right? Okay? So profile pictures, things like that, make sure that you're selling you and all your good stuff, not necessarily, all the other things that we all have. I mean, I got kids too, and I call in sick sometimes when my kids are sick, but as an employer, I have a job, so if I call in sick, it's okay. But you, as I have my leave and all that stuff. But you, as a prospective employee, you're never going to call in sick, are you? No, because you're the best employee they're ever going to have until you've earned up that leave, and then your kids are sick, and then you're like, I gotta go. So it's going to happen, but you don't want to sell that. Okay, so take out pictures of your kids, take out the pictures of you holding that wine at the whatever event or whatever. Just have a picture of you at the event, but not a glass of wine in your hand. Last thing, we have this as a nursing specific branded just for y'all through our site. So in Coastal Career Link, there's a link to this. It is a nursing site branded for CCGA nursing students. It pops up over here on the side as the career services highlights. There it is right there. So you click on that and it takes you to, it's called Liquid Compass. But it has some search features that are really good for you. Jobs while you were a student and a new graduate RN jobs. You can click on that. You can pick the city. It puts the closest ones first. So Jacksonville would be kind of the area. And it shows you we've got 37 jobs with PSA Healthcare, 30 with Baptist Health. And if you come down here, here's the jobs. If you click on, you want to look at this one at Baptist Health, click on it. It takes you to the Baptist Health website and that actual job. And then you can apply for that job. So this isn't something I run, this is something I contracted with specifically for ASN and BSN and radiology students to use. So it's all there, it's free for y'all. You can put in, research all kinds of things anywhere in the country. 350 jobs in here today, so with Baptist Health. So lots of jobs out there. Last thing with y'all. Okay, so the highest earning graduate last year was y'all. Okay, roughly, we do the survey. I talked about we do the survey of all of y'all when you graduate. The numbers that came in, y'all, roughly 45,000 to start. Okay, that's just base salary, not counting overtime and things like that. Y'all, the fastest to work was reported at ASN. Went to work fastest. They made a little bit less than y'all, but we've got almost 100% employment out of both the ASNs and the BSNs. So it's really, really good. Y'all are the most highly sought after graduates on campus from both programs by far, and you make good money to start. So you do really good. So when that survey comes out, please answer it because that's the kind of information that I want to be able to share with next class. I also want to share it with your professors so they know how well y'all are doing. So that'll come out right around graduation time. It's called a destination survey. So, any questions, comments, concerns, queries, anything?
With the LinkedIn thing, if you've kept your Twitter professional, where you're only following hospitals, different kind of things like that, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. And it might, it's kind of hard to find a specific person's Twitter feed sometimes. So I'm not real worried about that one. But yeah, today's inauguration day. If you want to go out
Yeah.
and tweet about
No.
how happy you are or how upset you are, it may not sell well in the world. So I just get rid of a lot of that stuff.
I just do this to follow what hospital is.
Yeah, and that's good. And on LinkedIn and on Twitter and everything else, follow the hospital that you're applying for. Okay, because they'll see that they may see that you're following them, which is really good. Plus, then you kind of know what's going on behind the scenes a little bit. And again, when you're in an interview, you can drop a little bomb on them. I read that your CEO was just started a new whatever. Again, they can read. Wow, that's great. So, good. Any other questions? Plus, another reason I like to use LinkedIn is because then I can follow you, find out, if you didn't answer my survey, I can find out where you're working after you graduate. I stalk you on LinkedIn. So, good. Good, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm just down the street here. If you didn't get the PowerPoints and you want them, I sent them out this morning. I don't know, a couple of emails came back to me for whatever reason. Just email me and say, hey, I didn't get the PowerPoints, I'll send them to you. Okay?